I'd like to now introduce you to a very, very interesting chap. He's a speaker who joins us all the way from the Netherlands. Kees van der Graaf has 3 sons, the eldest of whom has FSHD. As such, he's established the Dutch version of the FSHD Foundation with the aim of raising funds for medical research. With an impressive business background, having worked for over 30 years in Unilever, responsible for all European business activities, having served as a member of the board of directors, Kees currently holds supervisory positions at various multinational companies. In addition to being an executive in residence at the IMB Business School in Lausanne, Switzerland, Kees is the founding investor jointly with our very own Mr. Bill Moss here in FSHD Unlimited, a biotech company set up specifically to find a cure for FSHD. He's also the chairman of the board. Please welcome Mr. Kees van der Graaf.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You can go right here if you like.
No, I'll stand here if you
Okay.
don't. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight and a real honor. It's lovely to see your name on the frame, and then you say that you're now here in Australia called Kees. I never have seen it spelled with a Y before, but that's probably because I'm maybe holding a key towards a solution with the company Fascio for FSHD. You see, I went to my picture book. I took a couple of simple iPhone pictures from the picture book and used them to illustrate my story tonight. But the story is called Defining Moments. I have had a couple of events in my life which I would like to share with you that have really defined what I'm doing today and not what I've been doing before. So if I now move forward, you see behind me the picture of my family. I have 3 sons, my wife Renée. This year is 50 years ago that we met and fell in love, and we're 44 years married. And you see the 3 sons. And what you can't see is that the oldest in the orange shirt is wheelchaired. He has FSHD. And when I go back in time, you see here a little picture of the family in Barcelona when we were traveling for Unilever through the world. It was probably our happiest moment in life. Those of you who know the disease a bit well can see that the little boy on the left, the oldest of the 3, has quite a straight face already. We didn't know he had FSHD at that stage. He was diagnosed with a disease called the Moebius Syndrome. And the Moebius Syndrome is a disease that affects the muscles in your face. And in order to help that, we gave him a lot of speech therapy, which of course in the end you think, well, that was not a clever thing to do, because that's the wrong treatment for the disease. He deteriorated after a while. Children at school came to talk to us and said, you got to do something because he's falling a lot, he's behaving strangely. So we took him to hospital, from one doctor to another doctor. For more than 1.5 years, it took to get the right diagnosis. The right diagnosis was done by the famous Professor Padberg. He is a world-known individual for FSHD disease. He has dedicated his entire life to the science of FSHD. He saw my son walking into his office and he said, I see it already. He's got FSHD. I wasn't there. I was traveling for Unilever. I was in Kuala Lumpur. My wife called me and gave me the bad news. I still get emotional about that. What do? You almost can kill Unilever for putting you so far away. I took the plane back, and then you discover you can't do anything. Nothing has changed in your life. The only thing has changed that you know what your son has. And we had no idea what FSHD was. We thought about physiotherapy, we thought about some massaging, and thought that would cure things. And then when you start to dig into it, to start to understand the disease better, talk to other people with the disease, you discover what it is. A progressive disease. If a young guy gets it already at a young age, it's probably a sign that that will deteriorate faster than if you get it at a lower age. It's genetic. Nobody in our families got it. The other boys don't have it. So it's what is called a spontaneous mutation of the genes. It's bad luck for him and for us, but bad luck for him specifically. And what can you do? Nothing. So he continued to go to school. He deteriorated slowly initially, later faster. At the age of 18, he was already wheelchaired. He's now, by the way, 38 years young. Then I started to struggle. What can I do? How can I help making a difference? I even contemplated the idea of becoming a medical doctor. But as I already look away if on the television somebody gets an injection, I don't think that was a good idea. So I quickly discovered that maybe the best way is to continue doing what I'm good at, organizing, motivating people, energizing people, and getting things done. And that was very much highlighted during a course I was privileged to attend from Unilever. And that was a course where Professor Prahalat, he's a famous professor who wrote books like Competing at the Bottom of the Pyramid, talking about how to compete effectively in today's world. And his message was very simple. Set your aims extremely high, unreasonably high. Go for it with all your energy, and then you will be surprised how far you will get. And the illustration is, why am I not going forward? I'm not going forward. Yeah, here we are. Can you stick to this one for a moment? This is the high jump. World record in high jumping wasn't broken for years when people were still going over it like this, until somebody developed this backward flop. I'm told that a professional athlete needs more than a year to master this way of jumping. But when you master it, new world records were broken again. So that was for me a signal to get into action. That was for me, should I point somewhere to get the next slide, or at least this thing doesn't work? Yeah, that was for me the reason to start the FSHD Foundation, raise money for scientific research. Started that in Holland, my wife and I founded it, and the miracle thing was at the moment we signed at the notary's office the Articles of Association, lightning literally struck in the church next door. It was an incredible sound at the moment we both signed. We read in that a very positive sign that this was a signal that we would be able to do magical things. I also met in a strange guy, next slide please, a strange guy that came to my office, no idea how he passed my secretary, and had a wild idea. He said, we need to get the Dutch national soccer team to raise money, become our ambassadors, and raise money for muscular dystrophies. Together with Louis van Gaal, the famous trainer, they said yes to our idea, and very quickly another organization, Muscle for Muscles, that's a literal translation of Spieren voor Spieren, was created. I had the honor to chair that also for quite a number of years. And the beautiful thing was that also that organization is dedicating a lot of their resources now to FSHD. Yeah, I then all of a sudden found myself on the Unilever Board. The Unilever Board, of course, it's very privileged if you work at Unilever to make it to the board, the executive board. And I found myself responsible for the entire European business. That was a business, as you read the newspapers, even in 2005, that Europe was difficult to get growth. So I dedicated all my time to help to grow that business. And I forgot at that stage about my family. I forgot about my son. I forgot about my foundation. I basically neglected them. In an ambition to make a success out of that, having a bigger network, and with that bigger network, indirectly supporting FSHD. So then I decided at a certain moment, I met a guy who started to talk to me about a vision quest. And a vision quest is basically you go on your own without anything somewhere in nature and you let the power of nature guide you. So I like nature, so I asked this guy, is it possible for me to attend such an event? And he says, yes, I'm organizing a 10-day event in Montana next summer, you're invited. So that was a great moment for me. What then happened, I drove through Montana, and after 50 miles of dirt road, I came to this barn. That's where the event was started. 3 days, full days of preparation, where I learned to fast, where I learned about the cosmos around us, where I learned about what the holy Indian ground means. I learned to do Tai Chi and other strange things. I learned to meditate. And after 3 days, we were brought by Indians into nature. We were walking in deep silence, a ritual dance almost. We were walking in deep silence up the mountain. And every time we found a tent, and somebody was dropped at this little tent. And I was last, maybe because I was the youngest of the group, maybe because I was some sort of fit. And then I found my little shelter. At the top, almost the top of the mountain, a little bit of snow still there, beautiful place, 270 degrees of free views. Only the human eye limitations were the limit what you could see. And there I was, without a phone, without a watch, without anything, no food. You could only make a magic drink to reduce your appetite. Those who want to slim and lose some weight, it's very simple. Water, lemon juice, cayenne pepper, and the famous Canadian maple syrup. You mix it, you drink every 20 minutes a little bit of it, and you have no hunger whatsoever. So, there you are, on your own, and your tent. You learn about what time. 3 times 24 hours is a hugely long time if you have nothing to do. So I did what I needed to do first. I digged my little toilet. We were not allowed to go more than 100 meters away from our tent. Passed that all out, walked from stick to stick, knew what my boundaries were, and then, what then? Tried to meditate. The mosquitoes were hindering me dramatically. Tried to do some Tai Chi, and then all of a sudden, from 3 sides, thunderstorms were coming in our direction of our mountain. And the temperature dropped dramatically from 22 centigrades to -10, -15. It started to rain that froze on your arm, and I escaped in that little shelter. And the wind started to hail, and it was bitterly cold. With everything on, I went in my sleeping bag and fell asleep. And then, the following morning, at the end of the day, it was dead silent. I woke up, and there was a blue sky, there was no wind, and the sky was full of white clouds. And in the west was this beautiful cloud formation, which looked a little bit like this. I didn't have a camera with me, but I found this in stock material. It looked a bit like this. And the funny thing was, the Indians told us that in the west, where the sun, of course, is setting, that's for them equivalent with the thunderbird. That's a bird that doesn't exist, but it's for them a big bird that has his wings like that. And this cloud exactly was like that. And that cloud had, where you expected the eye of the thunderbird to be, a hole in the cloud. And the sun was shining from behind that cloud straight you can see the beam of the light in my direction. And the West for Indians is the same as death, but also rebirth. And the message I got out of that case, this is no coincidence. This is something you need to take very seriously. This is your message that you need to rethink what you're doing and reinvent yourself. That's what I did. The next sort of 65 hours. And I came to the conclusion that I had to resign from Unilever. I couldn't combine doing my Unilever job with the FSHD job, and more importantly, the caring for my son. So, long story short, 2008, I took early retirement from Unilever, and I started to dedicate my time to FSHD. Had all the time in the world, and bit by bit, things happened. And something very seriously happened first. In 2011, my son got very ill. He got a lung inflammation, and a lung disease. Within 3 weeks, he was twice a week in intensive care, and he nearly passed away. It was his will to survive that made him survive. He needed, after that, more than half a year of being artificially fed because he didn't have the strength to feed himself, to swallow. And he got himself back to 33% lung capacity on which you can live. And he lived ever since very well. With support, he couldn't work anymore. He had to stop his job. He needs now 24/7 support. He lives on his own with a couple that takes care of him. And he makes his brain work to the advantage of the foundation, to the advantage of a friend who needs brains to help him with his business. But also something else happened in 2011. It was the breakthrough that the genetic mechanism of the disease was discovered. And when you hear us, people with FSHD, talking about DUX4, that's the name of the bad gene, the gene we need to silence. It was also the moment that I started to think about the fact that we needed to create, now it was time to create a company. And that was the moment that I had to think about my role at Ben & Jerry's. And in Ben & Jerry, I learned the importance of having a social mission and what impact that can have. So we modeled the company on the Ben & Jerry model, basically saying it's got a social mission. A social mission is that we want the drug we're going to develop to be as cheap as possible, so that it's accessible for every single person with FSHD, and insurance companies can cover it. And on top of that, we will give half of our profits away to improve quality of life of the people with FSHD. Profit is about 6 to 7 years away, if not longer, but that is nothing compared to the fact that I'm now 21 years in this business of trying to find a cure for FSHD, and we're closer than ever. So we founded the company with the 3 gentlemen here. Bill and I met first. Bill received me in his apartment with my business plan. Bill probably has seen 20,000 business plans, if not more, in his life. And this probably was not the best he's ever seen, but he probably liked my blue eyes and my passion. And he said, you can count me in, Kees. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this together. We found a Canadian guy who is also the Bill Moss of Canada, who was a Shell senior executive, and we started the company. A very small company that is now making quite some progress, and I'm not going to dwell on that, but it's a unique company. And as I stay here, you see now the picture of my wife, my 2 healthy sons, myself, and a friend who were swimming last year in what we call the single swim in Utrecht through the dirty channels in Utrecht for FSHD. And why do I show you this picture? Because we also continue every little penny we can get to put behind support is worth it. It's really worth it. And it will meet, as we have shown so far, it will meet ultimately our demand. And why am I doing this? Because tomorrow, Sunday, it's again the 4th edition of the Single Swim in Utrecht. And this time they will swim again, and I can't swim, but I'm here also to help creating what we need for the future of FSHD. This picture, no, this one not yet. This one is very recent. Bart, in order to feel good, he needs to swim. He needs to be in the water. And he needs to be in warm water. So we found for him this lovely place in the south of Spain where he can be in the water, and that's where he can move. It's the only place where he can move. As you can see, he is hanging in his wheelchair. He can be 4 or 5 hours per day in the wheelchair. For the rest, he is on a bed, either inside or outside the home. The advantage of Spain is, again, it's so nice and warm that he spends a lot of time there out in the sun, and it does him really good. Another thing that is a big benefit of what happened so far is that he and his mother never had a very good relationship. But ever since he was very ill and his mother took control over everything that needed to be organized to make his life easy, he and her became very, very friendly. This was Mother's Day. He found these, I don't know where you find blue orchids, but probably with a little paint in Spain they made them blue. And this was this picture that illustrates where I would like to end with, and that is really the famous last phrase. If you want to make a change, if you're determined, if you are passionate about what you want to achieve, you can do miracles. And that is where I believe in. That's driving me. It's my mission in life, my calling. My purpose, you can take whatever word you like for it, is to make the difference for the people with FSHD. And hopefully we can say in 5 to 6 years we've got the magic pill that at least silences the bad gene DUX4. So I'm grateful to be here. Lovely, beautiful audience, lovely decor, sort of setting. I really sincerely are grateful for all of you being here, helping Bill's organization to be even more successful so that we can get quicker to that ultimate goal, a cure for FSHD. Thank you very much.